Welcome to the Underwater Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of underwater portrait photography, cinematography, and everything in between. With me, your host, Brett Stanley. Welcome back to the Underwater Podcast, and this week we're passing off the mask and regulator and chatting with underwater model Julia Pretzl. Julia's adventure began whilst living in Thailand working as a dive master, when one of her clients asked her to model for him, and she was hooked. We chat about what it's like modelling at 60 feet under the water, her techniques to get the best out of a photo shoot, and how being a dive master has given her some great skills to keep herself safe at depth. Alright, let's dive in. Julia, welcome to the Underwater Podcast.
Hey Brad, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. And so I've known about your modelling work for a little while now, just because we're in the same sort of Facebook groups and we know some of the same people. And it's amazing. You kind of get these beautiful shots where you're modelling and you're out deep in the ocean somewhere on a wreck or on some sort of reef. Looks like tough sort of stuff. How did you get into being an underwater model?
Actually, by accident. I was working in Thailand at that time as a dive master for a German dive school. And one of our customers was an underwater photographer that I used to show around the dive sites there. And we did not get along at all in the beginning. I thought he was an arrogant guy and he thought I was incompetent. But at some point we just started to get to know each other and his family. And then he asked me if I wanted to shoot with him underwater. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So we just went to the shallow water right next to the dive school and realized it's just not working. Buoyancy wise, I couldn't stay underwater. I couldn't hold my breath. I couldn't hold my eyes. So we agreed to meet the next day and I'm going to go practice in the pool. And then the next day we grabbed some friends of mine who were dive instructors at that time and also working with me. And they were basically the first safety divers I had. And we just went to I'd say 12 meters, 10 to 12 meters. And I was having a weight belt on and we were just trying to lie me down flat on sand, right in between corals and massive rocks. And that was basically the first shooting. And then I saw the pictures afterwards and I was like, oh, I really need to practice a lot more. It was terrible. My dress was all over the place. My hair was all over the place. Actually, my expression, my facial expression was kind of fine, but everything else just didn't work. And so we did another shooting, which went a lot better and actually was featured in a German website, a newspaper website. Of all the pictures they could have taken, they used that one where you barely see my face and everything looks weird. But I'm within my second shooting, I already made it on a website of a newspaper. So that's cool. And
that's great.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I did not expect that. And then afterwards, we just met every now and then in Germany in pools to practice. And then when I was living back in Thailand again, I had some other friends of mine I was working with. And so that's where we got the pictures from, the wreck shooting and the one at Sail Rock with the white dress. So that was two shoots at Sail Rock, which is an incredible dive site in Koh Tao, Thailand, and 2 shots at the wreck. And at this point, we've already been so much better. We watched videos from Benjamin van Wong, which you also had on your podcast, right?
Yeah, Ben's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw his videos he made in Bali and Fiji with his underwater models. And that's basically where we started to realize, that's what we need to know. That's what we need to take care of. We were all dive professionals and we were working a lot at this time. So we knew everything about diving, but we had no idea about putting weights on a model and safety precautions. So we had to meet a couple of times and make plans and try stuff out in the shallow waters. And it was just such an amazing time, just trying different things, see what works, which doesn't. And Benjamin van Wong also said in one of the videos that it's not about getting the best professionals in their area. It's about the most dedicated ones that are really involved in the project. And I feel we definitely had that. We went on the boat, we had so much equipment, we had so much energy. We were laughing the whole boat ride and talked about everything we want to do and then went down. And the only thing we didn't calculate in at the Sail Rock shooting was the amount of other divers in the water. It was our full boat, which was 40 people. And then we had at some point there was 6 boats behind ours. So that was more than 100 or 200 other divers. So we had bubbles everywhere. We had other divers in between me and the photographer that we had to maneuver out of the way and just tell them, stop filming in her face. I know it's weird seeing a girl at whatever it was, I think 24 meters at that point, in a dress with no scuba gear, just like leaning on a piece of rock and smiling to a guy with a camera. Like, I know it's weird seeing that, but don't film in between. Like, we are on a schedule there. We don't have unlimited time on that depth.
But it was like an attraction, like they'd been put on for them to be able to see this thing underwater.
I imagine. And like, it was funny because every time I had my mask on, like, I could actually see what was going on. And every time I put my mask on, there was like more divers around us. And all I could see in the water was like the big eyes behind their masks, which is usually like a thing I had to look out when I was working as a dive master. Like, if guys have big eyes, there's something wrong with them and you need to take care of them. And I was just seeing big
panic usually, right?
Yeah, right. And I was just seeing big eyes everywhere. And I was like, oh, please, guys, it's fine. It's fine. Just move along. We're all good here. I'm not dying.
So how was that? How long were you sort of on that rock for with all those people around you?
I think the total dive was about 40 minutes the first time. And then the second time, about 35 maybe. Because for the first dive, we had a ponytail, like an extra spare tank just for me. And the second time it was empty. So we had to share air from one tank with one of the safety divers. So we had less time down there.
Okay.
And
so how did that work for you? So you're basically holding onto this rock and you have your pony bottle, which is, has its own little regulator. Did you hide that tank somewhere behind you so you could get rid of it? Or did you have a safety diver bring it in for you?
No, we didn't have anywhere to place it and secure it. So my safety diver brought it to me. Like, in other locations, it might be possible to just tie it to something beneath you and put it in the back of your dress so you can reach it every time. But I would use that more of like a backup, because if there's something wrong with it, until the safety diver realizes I can't grab a hold of it, like, nah, I'd rather have a safety diver coming to me and they already know that everything's working. And yeah, it was a bit weird the first time to like be down there without air. Like, as a diver, you always get told, like, never stop breathing, breathe continuously, don't hold your breath, always make sure you have enough air. And then once you're down there modeling, you have no air, you hold your breath. I mean, there's safety precautions you gotta take, of course. Like, I wasn't just standing on that rock, like my leg was tied to the rock. So I couldn't accidentally, like with a full lung of air, which I didn't do anyway. I didn't want to be completely inflated. But like with a big amount of air in your lungs, you always get positively buoyant. And as a girl with a bit more fat at that point, like more positively buoyant than I am now. So we had to weight myself down as well with a weight belt and make sure there's absolutely no way I can accidentally get to the surface. Because as every diver know, if you descend from quite a bit of depth to the surface, the air in your lungs expands and like ruptures in your lungs and walls and everything can happen. So that is for every shooting the main thing we take care of. And yeah, I always have a knife with me as well to cut the string in case of an absolute emergency. So I can get to the surface, just not by accident.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the thing too. So if you're posing and you're kind of lost in the pose and say you're not attached to something and you don't have a mask on, you could, because you can't see very well, you could possibly be slowly ascending to the surface and not know about it.
Yeah, that's what happened the first times. Not when I was lying in sand, but when I was standing on that rock. I did have a weight belt on and I did have the leash tied to my leg to make sure I couldn't rise further than like 30 centimeters-ish. But I did float to the surface like quite a while, like the whole 30 centimeters, and would have definitely gone more. I just realized because the string got a bit painful. And that's when I realized I've already risen like 30 centimeters. And if that's like at 24 meters depth, if you rise 10 meters, like that's pretty bad.
Because your lungs are going to expand quite quickly in that depth. Yeah.
And lungs are so delicate. Like, it's not like a balloon that you just inflate and deflate a couple of times until it explodes. It's just like, especially with working underwater, like you want to be rather on the completely safe side than sorry, because like...
Well, yeah, you only get one chance at it.
Yeah, it's really hard to solve problems underwater.
So what was it like for you when you did that first kind of modeling session, when you gave that regulator away to your safety diver? Was there a bit of a moment of panic, or were you pretty prepared for holding your breath?
I would say I was definitely prepared to hold my breath, and I wasn't worried at all. Like, that's when you work with like good friends of yours and you know their qualifications, you've seen them at work, you know the buoyancy is on point, they're super reliable. Like, I was not worried at all. The only thing I was worried was my own performance. Like, if I would get it right, if I could do the poses and get some nice expressions and make it a nice shot. I was definitely more worried about my performance. And that maybe I wouldn't be able to hold my breath as long as would be ideal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I have with that's the only thoughts I have before any shooting I do. It's just, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And then, just doing my best. But it's usually my performance that I'm thinking about and not about the safety divers or anything. Because the way we pick them and we train them, like, they're all professionals. They all dive every day. They are responsible for teaching students and everything and newbie divers. So I know they're good at their job.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So you've got the diving side of it all dialed in because you've got such a good team and you've got so much confidence in that. So it's just your actual modeling performance that is concerning you because everything else is so solid. And so have you done modeling before? Like, have you done modeling on dry land?
Yeah, every now and then in between. And for example, when we do the Bali workshops that we do every year, and this time in Croatia, I'm doing the above modeling as well, like fine art nude, and we have like shootings on the beach, we have shootings in the forest, in pools and everything. Yeah. And I feel like I get really good at it by now, but I feel like underwater is where my absolute strength is.
Right. Before you had done the underwater, had you done posing on land, or was the underwater your first experience at like modeling for a photo shoot?
I've had a photo shooting before when I was like maybe 18. That was like 5 years before the underwater. I was terrible. Like, I saw the pictures and I was like, this is not my thing. I'm not good at this.
And did you find that when you went underwater, you kind of clicked a little more because you knew how to move underwater and you knew what kind of looked good?
Yeah, definitely. Like, above the water, I'm quite clumsy. Like, I keep falling over my own feet and I just kind of feel awkward. Like, I don't know. I don't have grace above the water at all.
Right.
When I'm underwater, I don't know what it is, but every time I'm underwater, I feel weightless. I feel elegant. I feel graceful. And I always have this kind of soundtrack playing in my head, which is kind of like a do-do-do-do-do, kind of a ballerina-ish kind of song. And that's like the soundtrack in my head that I move to, and everything just kind of works. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think that's also a reason why I enjoy modeling underwater so much, because that's just a totally different side of me.
I think you're totally right, because it's that feeling of the water, and it's what the water does to you in terms of, it blocks your ears, so now you can only kind of hear your own thoughts and your own heartbeat, and you're down there by yourself. So that's where the theme song kind of comes in, because it gives you something to move to. But it's also the water, I think, gives you some structure. Like, I'm a big guy, I'm a stocky guy, but I feel more graceful under the water than I do on land.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just comforting as well. Like, I think for me, like when I started diving became for me what is meditation for others. It's just when you're underwater, there is nothing else to do. There is no worrying about your paycheck. There is no worrying about what's gonna happen on the evening. It's just you underwater doing your thing. And that kind of has been always the way. So on land, I'm overthinking sometimes and I'm stressed, and underwater, it's gone. It's like, it's me, I'm underwater. There's nothing I have to worry about. There's nothing that needs to be done right now. All I have to do is move to the song in my head, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it keeps you very present, right? There's no thinking about the future or the past. It's just now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And it's so interesting that that's where you prefer to model. I mean, I hear that a lot with people who are models underwater, that it's much easier down there for them than on land. Whereas I work with models and clients all the time, and if I work with someone who's quite an experienced land model and I take them underwater, to them, a lot of the time it's so foreign and they feel very awkward and sort of uncoordinated.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a total different way of posing as well. Like, on land, you've got gravity, and especially models on land know how to move their bodies, but underwater with almost no gravity, and if you have too much air in your lungs, you keep floating to the surface, the water might sting in your eyes, your hair's all over the place. Like, there's a lot of things that might be very distracting, and especially opening your eyes, because like on land, you see clearly. Or if you don't, you use glasses or contact lenses. But underwater, if you open your eyes, like, it feels like there's a hand covering your eyes, I feel, because everything is just completely unsharp, but it feels like there's something on your eye. I mean, there is, but like the way the water breaks,
you can feel the pressure of the water on your eyes.
Nah, it's more the way it's everything's disoriented.
Yeah, like you've got a cloth over your eyes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking through something and it's making it distorted and disorientating.
Like if it's super bright on the surface and I go underwater in shallow water, for example, in the pool, and the water is just so bright. Like I'm opening my eyes and I'm like, oh, it's so bright down here. Might be just fine. But like that was actually one of the things that took me a while to get used to, like especially in chlorinated pools. Like my eyes would burn, would be red all the time. In the ocean, the first 1 or 2 shootings as well, like I would put eye drops in afterwards and wash them out. But over time, like I'm doing it for 5 years now, like I don't feel it at all anymore. I'm so surprised. Like I just open my eyes underwater and there's no burning, there is no stinging. It's just the weird disoriented vision, but everything else just completely adjusted to it. And I think that's really funny how our bodies to a degree can really adapt to the environment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's because the salty water, I mean, it's so my studio pool here is salt water, but it's a very low salinity. It's pretty close to the tears that come out of your own eyes. So your eyes don't tend to feel it. But in the ocean, and I've done this myself, is when I've opened my eyes, there's a real kind of shock because the salt hitting your eyes does kind of sting a little bit, but you're getting used to that.
Yeah, completely.
That's great.
I don't feel it anymore. And I think that also comes with like our bodies are able to adapt so much as long as we relax and let it do its own thing. Like the thing I've done the first time was I was rubbing my eyes, I was putting water in, I was trying to get the salt out. But then I realized our eyes have tears. Like if I relax and just let my eyes handle it, they just started to produce so much tears and it would
flush it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about water up the nose? Do you have a problem with that initially, or do you still have a problem with that?
I still have a problem with that. I mean, it comes with the job. It's as soon as you put your head backwards a bit and the air is escaping your nose, it just floods with water completely. It's uncomfortable still, but I'm completely used to it. And the only thing is, like, don't try to swallow it underwater as long as you don't have a regulator in. I've done that once, like I was getting water up and it filled my mouth and then I opened my mouth and the other water came in, then I closed my mouth and tried to swallow it and I almost choked. I was like coughing already, signaling my safety diver, come here now. And he gave me the regulator, and with the regulator you can cough. And then that was sorted, but that was like a one experience only, and I've never tried swallowing water underwater again.
No, that's a tough one too. And I get this a lot with clients. So they'll go under the water and they'll put their head back and their sinuses will fill with water.
Yeah.
And then when they come up, their first instinct is to breathe in through their nose. And suddenly they're choking on water. And it took me a couple of years to work out why this was happening. I thought, are you sucking in water through your mouth somehow? And then I realized after I actually did, because I like to kind of not model in front of a camera, but I like to do the things that I ask my models to do so that I understand what it's like. And I did an upside down thing, got water in my sinuses, came up, and I had to wait for all that water to drain out of my nose before I could breathe in.
Yeah.
And it made total sense, but it took me so long to understand that.
It's just, I mean, getting it up my nose and then like having it run out when I'm on the surface, that's totally fine. But what sometimes happens is like 2 or 3 hours later, I would look down to tie my shoes or I would look down to pick up my handbag and there is just a flood of water exiting my sinuses and dripping out of my nose. And I'm just like, where did that come from? How is that much water in my head? Like, it's crazy.
Still, hours later. Yeah, where was it? Yeah, it's always interesting if we've done a photo shoot or something and we'll go out for lunch or something afterwards and be looking at the menu and then it all just comes out onto the menu or something. It's quite embarrassing. But but that's interesting. So when you're under the water and you've filled your sinuses full of water because you've done a move, and then you're going back to the regulator, I guess you need to be able to have enough air in your lungs to be able to blow all that water out again.
I don't blow it out. I just leave it there. I just breathe through my mouth.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So you just, the whole time you're doing your session under the water, when you're like, 10, 20 meters down, you're just leaving your sinuses full of water.
Yeah. Because there's no point, because as soon as I look up, it's going to fill again and then I have the uncomfortable feeling again. So I just rather leave it there. And I mean, it's not bothering me. It's just like the first minute when it happens because it feels so weird. And then I don't recognize it anymore. Right. Then it's just gone.
So what's your process for, say, going to a dive site, getting out to where you're going to be posing? Can you talk us through kind of the workflow you have for actually doing a photo shoot?
Sure. So usually we go to the dive site the day before the shooting already, just to like check conditions, check for currents, check the temperature. when I'm working with my favorite photographer that I'm doing all the workshops with, we dive together, and like together we check for beautiful spots or possible locations. We also look for hazards, like if that's a place where a lot of boats might anchor at some point, if there's lots of waves, if there's like, one thing I really don't like is sea urchins, because if there's a lot of them, you just don't know where to put your hands and feet.
Oh yeah, yeah. Can you see them if you've got your mask off? Can you see that they're there, or do you need to know beforehand?
I need to know beforehand. So yeah, we check out everything, and then we go back and we talk with the whole team, like with the captain, so he knows exactly where he needs to anchor the boat. We talk with all the safety divers. If it's a workshop, we already talk with all the photographers that are going to be participating on that shoot. And so the next day we do a briefing and we talk about the depth. What else are we talking about? The depth, the dive time, the conditions, the visibility. And I always prepare my outfits the day before, sometimes like until 2 a.m. if it's like something random. Right. And then we just head on the boat, get to the dive site. Everyone sets up their equipment. If I have my own equipment, I'll set that up and get ready. If not, I just share air with my safety diver. It depends on the location and the conditions, really. And once everyone's good to go, everyone feels comfortable, everyone has checked their camera. Because if you realize on the shooting when we're already at 20 meters that your camera is not working properly, like battery's done, you forgot your memory card or whatever, like that shooting is done for you. And it happened.
That's right. Yeah.
It happened before a couple of times with participants.
It's happened to me before when I've gotten down there and realized that I've set one of my switches was wrong. I was on manual focus instead of autofocus. And that was like, okay, that the whole dive's done. Yeah.
Yeah, all check the cameras before we get on the boat so we can grab something. And then we check it again on the boat if everything's working. And then everyone just gets in the water and everyone teams up with their buddy. Like safe diving rules, you always dive with the buddy. So all photographers are grouped in two, and I'm grouped with my safety diver. And the second safety diver is grouped with the main photographer, with the Christian. And in case anything goes wrong, one safety diver is taking care of the other safety diver, and Christian is going to drop his camera and take care of me. We never had to do that, but it's always good to have a plan B. Because if the safety diver has a problem, then I have a problem. Because then there's two people with a problem, and then you need two people to solve it.
Yeah, and you can never be too prepared with this sort of stuff. You know, what's the saying is, what is it? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Absolutely. Like, stuff did go wrong. Not for me, but like for other underwater models. And sometimes it's just like being unprepared or being unconscious. How do you say in English? If you're not careful enough?
Like unaware.
And for one girl, like I think she had a cramp in her vocal cords. Oh. Like, and she died because she couldn't breathe underwater, and until they got her up, something like, it's terrible. But that's something you can't really prepare for.
Yeah. So she had her windpipe closed. Yeah. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And so she couldn't breathe even if she was on a regulator.
As far as I gathered, yeah. And apparently she was like exhausted. She'd done too many dives that day. I don't know. She should have taken a break or something. So after I heard that, I'm always like, I'm even more careful now and keep listening to my body. And if it tells me something's wrong, I give it a second or two. And then if it's just getting worse, I'm like, no guys, let's pack up. Let's get to the surface and we can try again later.
This is something that I've definitely found with professional underwater models or very experienced underwater models, is that they know how to listen to their body. They know when their body's telling them that this is not a good thing to be doing. Yeah. Whereas I find people who are just starting will push their limits too far and maybe ignore the warning signs of their own body, whether they're too tired or they're too cold or they're out of breath, that they will push things harder because they're not as experienced as in what can happen.
Yeah, I mean, your body is your biggest ally. Like, if it tells you something, you gotta listen to it. And the thing is, when you're like overexcited and overhyped up for the shooting, you're rushed with so much adrenaline and everything. Like, you might not realize what your body's trying to tell you. And so what I usually do before I dive is I just let the photographers talk about their stuff, and I just give myself a minute or two, listen to some music, relax, do some breathing, and just trying to feel inside me if I'm like, my body never told me, oh my God, you're not okay. It's always like, yeah, we're great. We got this. We feel good. Yeah. We're prepared. I only had one shooting that I had to, I couldn't even start because I just could not equalize. I don't know what it was on that day, but I woke up tired and then didn't feel well. And then we were heading towards the shoot. We were already in the water and I just could not get down. So I tried a couple of times and then I was like, guys, this is not happening today. I don't want to like rupture my eardrum. And if I'm already not able to descend, I shouldn't be down there anyway on that day.
Yeah.
And that was during a workshop in Bali, and we already trained the backup model. So they just took her, and then I got to relax for that hour.
Yeah.
But I'm all for pushing my limits, but I need to know my limits before I can push them. And for beginners, I feel they want to go too fast, too quickly, too hard.
Yeah.
And then things can go wrong. And I mean, as for safety stuff, like I can hold my breath for longer than I'm using that underwater. So when I'm already feeling like my body signal me, I have too much carbon dioxide in my lungs, I should breathe, then I can push it for another minute, maybe. But then it's already getting hard keeping my facial expression under check. And I'm always signaling my safety diver early enough so I know I have at least like 30 seconds to a minute of extra air that I can hold comfortably in case there's something happening. Like, it's just when you're signaling you're completely out of air, if you're signaling your safety diver then and he looks away for a second or two or looks at a fish,
then it's too late.
I mean, it's not too late. You can hold your breath for way longer than it's comfortable, but it's just, I've had one girl and she just panicked then. Like, she was holding her breath for the maximum and the safety diver, I don't know what happened. Like, he was swimming, but he wasn't swimming fast enough because he didn't realize she's completely out. And she just panicked and was like, oh my... And then everything was fine and sorted, but that's why you shouldn't push your limits too hard in the beginning.
No, exactly. And you should keep something in reserve, right? You need to have like a plan B. Yeah. For sure. So kind of, if you've got a 2-minute breath hold, then maybe posing for a minute and a half is enough.
Yeah. I mean, you always got to put your mask back on anyway in between to talk to the divers and see if they're happy with the pose, if they want to adjust the fabric, if... Like, at some point we had like the coolest shooting ever in Bali, and there was like just fish swimming between me and the photographer, which I didn't see because I had my mask off, and I was posing and I felt like this is probably the best pose I've ever done, and the hair was great and I felt the dress floating around. And then we had to repeat it all over again because there was just too many fish covering my face.
And too much wildlife is not usually a big problem for these sorts of shoots, but that's a problem to have.
If like the whole face is covered by a fish, then it's just hard editing the fish out, I guess. Yeah, it's just so funny because like when I'm holding my breath and I don't have a mask on, like I can kind of guess where the photographers are because they're like black dots with weird arms hanging off them. So the camera housing, but I can't see what they look like. I can't see what, like they wouldn't be able to tell me anything I should do better or change.
No hand signals or anything.
Nothing. I wouldn't see it. So we do a couple of shots. They get their time and I get my regulator back, put my mask on, and then we see how it went.
So how are you communicating if you're doing it? If say you've done one session and then you're communicating with the photographers and the divers, how are they letting you know what you're doing and what needs to change?
They either point to their face, so I know it's my expression, or they move their arms around their head, so I know it's the hair. Sometimes a photographer would swim towards me and adjust the dress, because like dresses are temperamental underwater. You'd think they just like slowly sink down and move a bit and are super elegant and in place, but they just keep moving upwards, especially if you're shooting like on the top of a dive site. Like, let's say the dive site is 20 meters and you're shooting at 10 meters and there's just in that moment divers swimming beneath you, then for the next 5 minutes, your dress is going to pop up all the time because of the bubbles the divers leave.
And the current, I guess, as well. Like, are you kind of getting caught in currents and stuff? Are you fighting currents while you're down there?
No, I'm just moving with them. We had almost no currents in Thailand, but in Bali at some point we had a bit more. And then for that shooting, I was tied with my leg. The leash was probably like 5 meters long. And I was tied in between these massive rocks to my left and right. And the leash was secured to like, I think it was 12 kilograms of lead on the bottom.
Oh, right.
So like I could not go up. I was safe like that. But I kept being pushed into the rocks on left and right. And on the video, you can see me moving like 2 meters to the left, 2 meters to the right. I felt like a balloon in the wind. And then I touched a coral or something and I had like this massive rash on my knee.
Oh,
the
like
last
a fire coral or something.
Something like that must have been there.
So was that like a constant current where it's just pushing in one direction, or was it like swell where it's kind of throwing you around?
Swell. To the left and to the right. I mean, it's kind of funny because like your dress moves in a way it wouldn't otherwise, and your hair as well, which you can use to your advantage. You just got to be careful not to bump into stuff. Actually, it did fall off something. Like we did this amazing shooting at a dive site called Sunken Temple in Bali, which is like a lot of statues that are just on the bottom of the ocean, and they slowly start to grow coral on them, and they're beautiful. And so Christian had the idea of a fine art nude photo where I was sitting on one of these next to these statues, and the current was so strong it kept pushing me off it, so I kept falling in the sand. And the only thing that was holding me down there was some weights that were placed on my lap, because I couldn't use a weight belt. It would have been way too visible. So I've just placed it on my lap, and I was clinging onto the side of the rock with like my right hand and tried to move my left hand for the photographers. And I just kept dragging my fingernails into this stone, and I just kept falling off. Like there's pictures in the movie, I'm just lying behind the statue, and I'm like, what the
Are there some great like outtakes, like behind the scenes shots of you kind of falling off?
Yeah, but as it's a fine art nude shoot, nobody will see them.
Yeah, no, because you probably see everything. Well, that's interesting. And that brings up another question is, if you are doing like dresses or if you're doing nude stuff and you need weights, where are you putting them? I know for that one you had it in your lap, but I guess you had to pose in a certain way to make that work.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to like think about positions and that in advance, so you already know where or which weights you use them. For some shoots, I just put a weight around my leg or one of the legs. If it's like for the parachute shooting, where I'm wearing this massive parachute dress and just a bra top, a weight belt will just squeeze the skin around my belly too much and it wouldn't be covered. And for that, I just put weights on my leg.
So you tied a weight belt around your leg?
So basically, it's weights placed on the sand with a leash, and then the leash gets attached to my leg. So this way I can move up and down depending on how much air I have in my lungs. And for other shoots, I use, how do you call these metal things? They are round, flat, and have a hole in the middle, and you use them in between screws and wood.
A washer?
Yeah, these ones. So I went to my local handy store and got like 2 kilograms worth of these, because they're like really flat and heavy. Yeah. And depending on the shooting depth and location, I can put these on a really slim belt.
Okay, and then you can put that belt wherever you want.
Yeah, so for some dresses, you could even sew pockets in and put these in there. But yeah, because I feel like the weight belts you get in dive schools, they're just like, they're made for quick release and they're super sturdy and heavy and the weights are super big. So I can't really use that for anything with a skin-tight dress. So that wouldn't. Right. I mean, you could edit it out, but it's just easier the other way. And
yeah, I think the more you do it practically before the shoot, the easier it is after the shoot.
Yeah. And also, like, these massive weight belts are made for quick release, but if I'm wearing them beneath a dress, I wouldn't be able to release them anyway. So there's no point of dealing with all the shapes that they're making. I can just tie a regular belt around it. And as I said, I usually wear a dive knife, so I can just cut through the fabric in the back and cut the weight belt off.
And so where are you hiding the knife, especially if you're doing an art nude? I guess you're not.
At that shoot, the knife was hidden behind the rock.
Okay, just so like it's always within your reach, so that if you need to cut something or release yourself from something, you can.
Yeah. Also, the photographers always have one. And like if it's a long dress, I put it around my leg or my ankle, or I put it in my shirt, like where the arm is, in the sleeve. That's what it's called.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever had to cut yourself out of something?
Yeah, but it was not like because we had like a safety issue. It was more we just couldn't release the leash.
Oh, like, okay.
That was the first shooting.
Too tied.
Yeah, because I kept floating to the surface. So with every bump to the surface, the knot got tighter and tighter. And that was the only time we actually used a rope around my leg. And then from then on, we learned and we used Velcro straps.
Oh, okay. So now you have like a surfboard leash kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easy release and it doesn't get tighter as you pull at it.
Yeah. And it's also wider. So there's not as much pressure on a single spot around your skin.
So it's a bit more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess with the weights as well, you don't want to not have the weights on because otherwise you're going to shoot to the surface, right?
Yeah. Like, I feel like men don't really have these problems because men are usually a bit more muscular. Like, if I look at my boyfriend in the pool, all he has to do is stop swimming and he just completely sinks all the way to 5 meters. If I stop swimming, like, my nose is underwater and the rest of my face is visible and I'm not sinking. I just have like a different weight to volume ratio as a girl. So if I would descend, let's say air sharing with a safety diver without weights, like he would have to drag me down because I would just float back to the surface. You're just floating
so much. Yeah.
So with weights, like I usually use a kilogram these days if for anything like between 0 meters and 10 meters depth. And with 1 kilogram, I'm just completely neutrally buoyant. So all I have to do is I wrap my arm around my safety diver or we hold hands and he just takes me down. Like he doesn't have to drag me. He doesn't have to keep me from sinking. It's just the easiest option. Yeah.
Do you ever do any underwater modeling where you're not using weights, where you're just breathing out the air that's in your lungs to help you to sink?
Oh, yeah, if you're shooting in just a swimming pool or something, then I'm just completely exhaling and then I sink. But in the ocean, it's a bit harder because of the
saltwater buoyancy.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so what sort of depths are you generally at? Are you generally at sort of the 15 to 20 meter depth?
I'd love to be, but usually when we're shooting, because of like most photographers I work with love shooting with natural light, and that's just best above 15 meters, I feel.
Yeah.
And so a lot of shootings are between 7 and 15 meters. But like my favorite shoots are anything below that. Like in Croatia, we had some shoots at 20 meters and 22 meters. And the deepest I've been was in Thailand on actually one of my first shootings, which was 27 meters depth.
Oh,
and
wow.
I don't know what it is, but like the deeper I am, the better I look at the pictures as well. Because like the pressure just pushes your body, like makes it more compact.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's making you look a little slimmer anyway.
Yeah, and more muscular.
Yeah. And just for the listeners, so 27 meters is 88 feet. So you're definitely down there.
Yeah. So when we were shooting at the shipwreck at 27 meters, and I was just like mimicking a figurehead above the boat, my safety diver came, gave me my mask, and then I looked up and I saw how far I actually was away from the surface. Like that was probably the only time I actually felt like, oh God, what am I doing? Like that was like, just for a second, the thought like, my mom's gonna hate me. If I die now, my mom is gonna hate me because I've done this stupid thing. And then I realized we've planned this for days. Everything's fine. And I remembered my training. I remembered my practice. I remembered who I was diving with. And then I was like, oh, well, actually, it's fine. It's only 27 meters. Could be so much worse.
And I guess, with that whole diving sort of thing in mind, is that it's not the distance from you to the surface that's the problem. It's the distance of you to your nearest air source, which is your safety diver. And it doesn't matter what depth you're at. Yeah. So long as you are at one breath away from your safety diver, then everything's fine.
Yeah. I mean, safety divers is a fun thing because like most photographers tell them, some of the photographers I work with tell them just swim completely out of the picture. But if you're shooting like a massive angle, your safety diver can't swim away 10 meters. Like there's just not enough time to react. Exactly. So when we're down there, we're already checking out like where the safety diver can be in front of like a pretty uni background. So it's easier to Photoshop them out. But usually the safety divers are at least 4 to 5 meters away from me, just because like even as well with currents, like if I'm drifting around a little bit, then I'm always like 2 meters more to the left or a meter more to the right. And I just want to have enough space to move. And so 4 to 5 meters for me is like, it's ideal because I signal them I'm out of air and it takes them less than 5 seconds to be just next to me.
Because there's one shot of yours that I saw recently where it is on a shipwreck and you are, and I know with underwater and wide angle lenses, you can make things look way smaller than they actually are and distance is greater. But there's this shot of you above this shipwreck and you're just kind of floating in front, and maybe this is the one you're talking about. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no safety divers. Where is the safety diver? And I know that you're being safe. Yeah.
They're
hidden
ninjas.
or photoshopped out. Exactly. Yeah.
They're hiding.
So it's like that game of like, where's Wally, of trying to find the hidden person in their picture somewhere. But for me, that was like, oh man, that is impressive. Even if those divers were, as you say, like 4 to 5 meters away from you, that image was totally worth all that effort.
Thanks.
It's amazing. Do you have tips for photographers who want to work with someone like yourself? What are the best things they can be doing to make your job easier on these kind of shoots?
They should let me plan the dive and me instruct the safety divers. Because like I know what I need and I know what the safety divers need to do and the photographers know what they have to do. So it's best to let me coordinate. And like it was so funny in Croatia, Christian was like, nah, you're going to need 2 kilograms. And I was like, no, I'm going to use 1. And he's like, no, you bring 2. And I was like, dude, you've never underwater modeled before. Like, why are you telling me what to use? So it's just easier if I do my thing and then we just cooperate and coordinate. The photographers actually, they don't need to do too much. Like they just need to be making sure they get good pictures.
So I guess what you're saying is that you're the one experienced with the safety of yourself. So your job is to look after yourself. Yeah. And you know exactly what needs to happen there. And with the photographer, they just need to be able to look after themselves and take the photos.
Exactly, because like as soon as someone else takes over responsibility for your safety, then if they make a mistake, you have to pay for it. So I made it my mission to figure out everything that could go wrong, everything that I need, everything that would be relevant for shooting. And then I always check if that's fulfilled. And then I know I'm good. But if I'd let someone else plan the dive, like obviously they choose the dive sites, they choose the depth, and I work with that. But like I need to be able to communicate with my safety diver, and he needs to know my signals. So it doesn't make sense for a photographer to tell the safety diver if she does that, if he does that, because like they're not really communicating underwater with each other, but with me.
Otherwise, it's Chinese whispers. Like it's you are the one who's going to be communicating with this diver, so you're the one who needs to set the signals.
Yeah.
What are you going through with your safety diver? Like what sort of signals are you setting up? What sort of precautions are you training them with?
So first there's like the regular dive hand signals, like I'm out of air, come closer, move away. I have a problem with my ears. I have a problem with my mask. I have a problem with my nose. I'm cold. I'm okay. How much air do you have left? Like that's what I'm asking the safety divers. They do always check, but I want to know how much time I have left. So that's the basic stuff. And then just like I tell them how to move my dress. So if I'm pointing towards my dress, they already know where and how to move it. Because sometimes when I'm tied up and the dress is super long, then I can't reach to the bottom.
And so are you, before you going under or before you get on the boat, are you showing them some pictures of things and saying, this is what I want the dress to look like? Yeah,
if I haven't worked with them before, I'll do that. In Bali, for example, we always work with the same dive school, and from there, always with the same safety diver. So he already knows, like, with him, I signal I'm out of air. He's there. He swims out, takes my masks. Like, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to point at anything unless I have like a problem with my ears, maybe. But he knows how to move the dress. He knows how to float. He knows how to push other divers out of the way in case they want to try to come between me and the photographer. Like he knows.
Yeah. Is he pushing wildlife out of the way as well, so they're not blocking your face?
No, but I wish he would push a whale dive into the picture. A whale shark, not a whale dive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing he hasn't accomplished yet. I wanted sharks in the shootings.
Yeah, there you go. You got to have some goals. So have you worked with sharks and wildlife, large animals underwater before?
Just the stuff I saw when I was working as a dive master. So in Thailand, we didn't really have any big sharks. Like we had the odd reef shark, maybe a meter every now and then. We have like 2 times throughout the year, there's whale shark season. And I must be one of the only people working there who's never managed to see a whale shark there. Like I was jumping in the ocean in Panama from a boat and almost jumped on a whale shark. But in Thailand, where there's regular whale sharks everywhere, I never found one.
Yeah, right. Like, especially you want it so badly. You need to let go. Yeah. With that talking about the animals and the wildlife, are there things you need to prepare to be able to do that properly or correctly?
Well, as I'm planning to shoot with sharks, like I'm already doing a lot of research in what their body language means, how they could react to my body language, just signals that the animals give you that you need to be aware of in order to like translate them into your action. Otherwise, like for the shootings I've done so far, it wasn't necessary because there was no big marine wildlife. But yeah, we're planning to do some shoots with manta rays in Nusa Penida in Bali next year and with some sharks. And that's definitely a field that I'm so excited about. Like I almost studied marine biology in school.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I realized it's not making as much money as I thought. And that was more important for me at that point. So I didn't do it. But like, that's always been a passion and like how animals behave and stuff. And one thing I realized from a lot of other videos online, like Ocean Ramsey is one of my idols. Yeah. And so I'm watching a lot of her videos in order to prepare. And I just feel like shooting with sharks, like as they are predators, they're like really sensitive to what you're signaling. So if I go in the water and I'm like, oh my God, this like either overexcited or scared, like I feel like it's gonna
they're
change
gonna pick up on it. Yeah, they're like dogs. They can kind of smell that change in emotion, which is not a good thing.
I mean, I can already practice with my dog. If I'm hyper excited, like my dog's acting weird. And I'm like, oh, I need to calm myself down. And then my dog calms down. So just seeing that mirrored is what I'm going to prepare for the shark shooting, definitely. Because like, I just want to be another fish down there. I don't want them to realize, there's something weird or, oh, that smells like bait or anything. Just another fish.
You just want to blend in. You just want to be, camouflaged to a certain point.
Exactly. And I feel like you can really do that with the vibe you're sending out. And I mean, that's a path I've taken for a while now, like meditation as well and being in check with your body and your feelings. So this is just another addition to that, what I'm already doing.
Yeah,
which I like.
exactly. To get that kind of the holistic experience of it, to be very calm and relaxed and like there's nothing to see here.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen Fish People? It's like a documentary on 6 lives changed by the sea. It's on YouTube,
No.
and I think I must have watched it like 10 times now, because like I'm not living close to the sea at the moment, as I moved back to Germany to start my own business, and it's just easier here. But every time I watch this documentary, I feel so connected to the ocean, because the way the documentary shows what other people are doing, like there's a girl spearfishing and she tells about how she learned it. And there's some other guys that surf, and like everything they say and do is just with so much passion. And I feel like I have the same passion for the ocean, and it's just
absolutely
amazing.
This is what I get from doing this podcast is meeting all these people that love the water, whether it's the ocean, whether it's a swimming pool, whether it's a bath. Everyone just has this attraction to the water and such a respect for it. It's amazing. It's this beautiful community.
I mean, I did not realize any of this until I started diving myself. Like I used to like just jump in the water, try surfing, do a bit of snorkeling, but then I moved to Koh Tao, Thailand, and started my whole like underwater career.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get used to it. Like everyone around me was talking about how much they loved the dive lifestyle and diving every day and getting in the water, getting wet, seeing this, doing that underwater. And I wanted to experience that for myself, but it was so hard for me. Like, especially if you're overthinking a lot, like you're prone to overthink everything about diving, because there's so much safety stuff you need to take care of. And especially if you try something new for the first time, like the first couple of times, it's going to be hard to keep everything in mind that you need to take care of. So it took me at least 30 dives to like fully acknowledge this beautiful world down there.
Right. 30 dives for you to relax and just to live it.
Yeah, it took me quite a while. Other people were a lot faster. But then again, I'm so happy I found it. Like, that completely changed my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do before that. I was just traveling, trying to find my way in life. And then I knew I want to work as a dive master, and just did everything I could to get there as fast as possible. And it's just like, that is one, like watching a documentary about diving or coral reefs is one thing, but like the first time you're actually down there and experience everything for yourself, and it feels like flying. Like for me, diving is the closest thing to flying, because you decide how far or close to the bottom you want to be.
Absolutely. And that's what I feel like when I was talking about being graceful under there, is a lot of the times I either feel like I'm flying or I'm in space. And if I'm underwater and I'm setting up a set or something, you can have that control of, I just want to go a meter over there, and I just you know exactly how much pressure to push to get there, and then you stop so slowly. And it's like a point of pride for me to be able to, hover gracefully and not touch anything, and, to have complete control over where I am in the water by just using my own lungs and my own arms and legs. It's incredible.
And it's so funny, like seeing, like once you're really good at your buoyancy and hovering and everything, and then you have time to not worry about your own buoyancy, but start watching others and theirs. It's just, oh my, I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting watching people learn that after you know how to do it. And, if you've been diving for years, it's just part of you now. But watching other people kind of struggle with their buoyancy and slowly learn it, and when it clicks for them, you're like, yeah, that's a beautiful moment.
I mean, in Croatia, my boyfriend and his son started diving for the first time. So I kind of got them into diving, and now they're hooked as well.
Oh,
so
good.
We were managing to get a dive together, just the two of them and me and one of the instructors, because they weren't certified yet. And I was trying to film them, and they were just all over the place. They were up and down behind me. At one point, he was landing on my head and didn't even realize until he was pushing me down. And it's just, oh my God, that was me like 5 years ago. They're going to get so good soon.
Oh, exactly. I always enjoy that kind of, when it's not in a dangerous situation, I enjoy watching people kind of losing their mind, because they're like, there's so many things to think about. It's like they're trying to fly a plane for the first time without any training. They're all over the place. They're losing their balance. They're getting amazed by what they're seeing. It's an experience. I love it.
For sure. Seeing my boyfriend and his son's eyes underwater, and they were just witnessing everything in the big structures, the big fish, the caves, the rocks, just the ocean in general, and just looking at me with like these big eyes and being like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
that was just amazing.
The thing when I first started diving, And the thing that was frustrating for me was I'm a reasonably vocal person in terms of expressing my wonderment about things. And being underwater where you can't communicate except for hand signals, I think I was, throwing up hand signals all the time just to kind of get someone's attention to acknowledge that they were seeing what I was seeing. It's such a weird experience,
I know. That's another thing what I really like about diving. It's just quiet. Like nobody's talking. It's all you and your experience. Like we're living in such a busy world, like with jobs and hobbies and seeing friends and making money and hustling and working on our career and doing enough sport, eating healthy. Like there's so many things that can distract us from like the really important questions, like who am I? What's my goals? Why am I here? What do I like doing? Because even I got into this trap for a long time. Like I have to do this. I have to do that. If I want to get there, I have to do that. And with diving, it was just like, no, I want to do that. I want to get there and I want to do that to get there. So that's just changed my perspective a lot as well. And there's no distractions down there. Like, as you said, it's you and the ocean and you can just, I don't know.
You just exist. Yeah. It is the place that I feel the calmest. And I have a brain that's like a hummingbird. And so when I go under the water, everything calms down and I focus so much better. It's one of the reasons that I love to shoot underwater is because it's my happy place. That's where I want to be. If I could spend all my life down there, that's what I would do. But it's not possible. Yeah,
I'm still waiting for myself to grow gills, but it's just, I've given up on that one. That is just not happening.
It's a slow process. Yeah. I have quite a big beard and people think that I have gills underneath there, but I think it's just food. Julia, it's been such an awesome experience listening to your stories. You've got such a great kind of experience with underwater modeling, and thanks for sharing so much of it with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was fun talking to you.
You too. We'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And as always, if you like the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. If you'd like to help with the production of these episodes, you can donate at theunderwaterpodcast.com. Any amount is welcome and really helps to keep the show going. If you'd like to connect with us or learn more about our guests, you can reach us at theunderwaterpodcast.com or on Instagram. We also have a Facebook group where you can discuss the episodes and even get your questions answered by our guests. There's a link to it in the show notes. You can learn more about my underwater photography workshops and mentoring at brettstanley.com or Brett S Photo on Instagram. The Underwater Podcast is presented and produced by me, Brett Stanley, and our music is Neo by Oh Boy. Keep creating, everyone. I'll see you in the water.